Thank you for joining me here on Pop Goes the 60s. I'm Matt Williamson, and I have a very special guest today. I have Gracinha Leporace. She is also known as Mrs. Sergio Mendes. So thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Now, I understand the band is back together, the Sergio Mendes band, and I
Yes.
was very happy to hear that because, without Sergio, I thought, well, how can you continue? So why don't you tell us how the band got together? And I understand it's a very good band.
Yes, this is a band that has been together for quite a long time. Most of the members of the band have been different times. I mean, some of them for 20 years, some of them for 15, but the this exact band has been together for the past 12 years. I mean, for the last 12 years of Sergio's life.
Okay.
And he used to call them the best band I've ever had because he was a very impressive group of musicians that not only they all very talented, but also the whole feeling of the band. Everybody's very close. They're friends. They play together in different gigs. Also, after they started playing with Sergio, they would do other things. And after Sergio passed away, they continued working together. And well, before he passed away, we used to say, "What if?" Instead of
Mhm.
just letting it drop, we'll continue, whatever. Not with any official anything, but the thoughts would come and we would talk about it. And he was always all for it because he thought it was a great band that should continue because they have absorbed enough of his music to be able to we all could continue without him. And of course, we would have to have a piano player. And it so happened that we knew Jameson Trotter for a while. He had already played with the band a few times when he subbed for Scott Mayo, who is our second keyboard and horns, and he would sub for him a few times, and he's part of the family. Everybody loves him, and he's an incredible musician, and he just stepped into this big shoes, but with an enormous ease. And it's been great. We've had some rehearsals, and they were all fantastic. It's like no time has ever passed. And the good thing is like also the band itself, since they have been with Sergio for a long time, as a Sergio's band, they have a fan base, they have people that follow them. So, they are known as Sergio's band. So it's not like all of a sudden I just put together this bunch of people and decided to call it the Sergio Mendes Band. This is legitimately the Sergio Mendes Band, the one that he called the best band he ever had. And it's been a pleasure and it's been very exciting. And I'm very grateful for all of them because they all made themselves available for this adventure. And of course, you never know what the reaction would be, but it has been very positive. We haven't played yet. We're going to do our first show on Friday the 15th in Oakland at Yoshi's, but I never doubted it that it would work, the band itself, and it sounds fantastic. Everybody is, at their best, and it's an incredible thing that we're doing and keeping the legacy and keeping this repertoire alive and everything. It's great.
Yeah, it's quite flattering to be called the best band and best musicians he ever worked with. So that's really
Yeah.
good. 12
Oh,
years,
yes.
and that's a
Especially
long
because you
time.
work with lots of them.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
it just goes to show you the longevity of his music. It just
Yeah.
has never died. And when I decided to do my video series on Brazil 66, that's some of the music I grew up with. And I'm like, there's really nothing, there's not a lot out there on them that really talks about the full history. So I thought I would do that. And that's how I got back into it. And then somehow we connected here. So that was
Yes,
wonderful.
absolutely.
And the videos that I did have been very popular. People responded very big, lots of views. And I was surprised how many people came out of the woodwork to say how much they love Sergio Mendes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And I saw the two parts, part one and part two. And I thank you very much for doing that. And it is reaching everywhere. Like people from Brazil send me messages, have you seen this? Oh, this is great, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's
Yeah.
very flattering. I love to hear from when the actual band members see it. I'm always very
Yeah.
thrilled, and I hope it gets to them. But usually I never know. But this time I found out.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's really nice. It's very nice.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I had some holes in my story. Since there wasn't a lot written on your husband, I don't think there's been a biography written on him, has there?
No, I'm working on that.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, very good. So I was trying to put together his history, and invariably I had to begin with, him coming to America and just what was going on in the music industry in the music scene in Brazil, which was very interesting. And some really great songwriters came out of that. And you were
Oh yeah.
one of the
That was
singers.
the golden era of Brazilian of MPB, what they call the Brazilian popular music. Just after Jobim came up with the Bossa Nova, because Jobim is the creator of the modern Brazilian music, no doubt about it. Brazilian music before Jobim was we had incredible singers and writers and beautiful songs, but mostly um, we had a lot of samba, which was incredible. We had incredible samba composers that were brilliant, and then we have beautiful the melodies and lyrics and things. And but besides the samba itself, the romantic Brazilian music and the whatever was very based on boleros and things. It was a mixture of the samba and that kind of thing, So it was different. It did have its own personality, own character, but it was not exactly what what happened after Jobim, started the movement of the bossa nova. When he started writing those songs with those incredibly sophisticated harmonies and melodies and things, and a totally different approach, everything else before had been very dramatic and very loud and very, the songs very heart-wrenching. So when he established that way of writing beautiful melodies with this, because he was a classical musician, he was, a round musician, and he was a composer, a conductor, a orchestrator. He did everything. So and these melodies that started coming out of him that were like incredible, and the whole country started turning into this other the amount of young musicians that would show up every year. It was amazing, astounding. We have like Edu Lobo, Dori Caymmi, we have Chico Buarque, which became huge and everything, and they were all Jobim's disciples. They were much
Hmm.
younger than him. He was the old man. So he was like, even Sergio. I mean, the first record that Sergio did, he co-produced, and he played in it, and he was like the proud papa of that band that he had found in a little nightclub in Copacabana. But he was very, 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 very the biggest influence of Brazilian music in those years was him, and all this the sheer amount of incredible songs that came out in that period. It's like to this day, most people are still living off those.
Sure.
We keep recording those things because it's
Yeah.
just, and then Milton showed up, and then everybody showed up, and through the years, the 60s was like a bounty. It was an amazing era of Brazilian music. There's never been anything like that.
And that time kind of reminds me of what the British invasion did to rock music. Once the Beatles came, it was like
Yeah.
completely changed. And that's very true. It seems to be how it went in Brazil as
Very much
well.
so. The first
Hmm.
Jobim song that they hit, the waves was Chega de Saudade, which was sung by this brilliant Brazilian singer she was not as young as at the time she was already a grown up. I mean, she wasn't a
Hmm.
young kid, but she had a gorgeous voice and she was very respected. Her name was Elisete Cardoso, and she was a brilliant singer and a lovely person. But She recorded Chega de Saudade, which made an enormous success. And after that, João Gilberto joined the 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 train, and he became, actually erroneously so, but people say, well, the father of Bossa Nova is João Gilberto. No, the father of Bossa Nova is Jobim. João Gilberto innovated the way of people singing. He was the interpreter of the bossa nova. He was the first person that brought something different into a way of singing that, all of our singers until then were pretty much dramatic, and the singing, they had big voices, and you had to have big voice. But with the bossa nova, you could be very economical, and the mellower, the better kind of thing. And he brought that. He taught a whole generation, including me and most singers of my generation, how to sing in a different way that didn't have to be so, over dramatic, over everything. And we were much better for that, and we learned a lot of things from him. But then he became the symbol of the bossa nova. But the father is Jobim, no doubt
Hmm.
about it, because he
Okay.
came up with those songs and those melodies and those harmonies or whatever. He was a
Mm.
brilliant man.
So how did you get your start as a singer? Because this you were coming
I
up very
started in
young.
67. I sang my whole life, but I wasn't pursuing a career. But I had a friend that had been my friend for many years that had decided when I was 14, 15 that I had to be a singer. And my parents would not let me be a singer at 14 or 15. I had to finish school, at least high school. And he stopped a little bit, but we met again in 67. I was 17, almost finishing high school. And we formed a group. His brother was in the group, and my brother, myself, and another 8 people. We were 10 people, and 2 girls and 8 guys. And we formed the group just from a casual encounter at a friend's house. We became singing together. And this guy that wanted me to be a singer, from his name was Paulo Graçamel. And he came over and heard this group, and he had a time slot on a TV, on a public TV thing, that he had an hour every Saturday. So he put us singing there and doing our songs, because on this group there were like 5 great composers and other singers and things. So my brother was a composer, and so was his brother, and so there was a lot of new music also. Not only we were doing everybody else's material, but we had a lot of original songs. So he decided to do this show, and then he started placing me in the several musical TV shows in Brazil, which was very common at the time. And then I started singing, and then there was a big song festival in Brazil. That's the same festival that presented this for the first time, Milton Nascimento doing his thing, and me. We were the 2 big things of this festival, and I became a singer on my own. I left the band and I started singing on my own. And I was working in Brazil, in São Paulo, when Sergio came to Brazil to do the first tour of Brazil 66 in 1968. And I was singing in São Paulo with one of his friends, that was Edu Lobo, a great composer of
Hmm.
Brazil. And he came and also in the show was Edu and myself, and the quartet that played for us was headed by Hermeto Pascoal, which you probably know is one of the greatest musicians ever in Brazil. So Sergio was friends with them and came to see the show. That's how we met. And he invited us all to come to America to do a record.
Okay. Was
And
that your first solo record then?
no, my first solo record had already come out in Brazil. I only have one solo record that I did in Brazil in 1968. I mean, it came out in 68. And no, he invited us to come here to do a record. Everybody said yes, but at the last minute, they didn't come, but I did. And he put a band together for me with a Brazilian group that was here at the time. They had come back from Mexico, and they he decided that they came to look for him to ask if he wanted to do something with them. So he put this band together, and he called it Bossa Rio, which was
I
the
got that
name of
here.
his
Yes.
first band. Yeah, that band.
Yes, this album
The
right here.
original piano player was not the guy that is in the cover, the
Okay.
first guy with the
Look at how
scarf.
cute you are here.
Yeah, well, you at 18, you have to be,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You don't have the right not to. But anyway, so yeah, so we did that record and then for A&M, and then we did another album a year later for Blue Thumb, which is
This one
Alegria,
here.
with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then we did that one. And
Mm-hmm.
then we did a live album in Japan. We
Ah,
played the Expo 70, and Sergio, we played at the same time as Sergio, so they did live albums of both shows. And we were together until the middle of 1970 when my band started. People, they wanted to go back to Brazil, most of them. And Lonnie decided she wanted to stop going on the road because she was with Herb and they were going to get married and they were going to live together. And so it all sort of like worked. And she left and I stayed in her place. She left at the end of 1970 and I joined the band.
yes, that was this album, which is one of my favorites. If I can pull it out here, Stillness. And this is
Yeah,
one of the
that's
album.
when the transition happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when she's in the front cover and I'm in the middle, whatever. So
Correct. This is just a great album, and your vocal is very good as well. You've got,
thank you.
and it was a very seamless transition. I mean,
Yeah.
it must have been difficult because you got Lonnie was kind of the voice. She was the
Yeah,
voice
she
of the
was
group.
too iconic for, to step on her shoes. But since I had been traveling, the Bossa Rio traveled with Brazil 66 for two
Hmm.
years
Okay.
straight. I mean, we did open shows for them all over the world and all over the America and everything. And so I'm probably the only singer that never rehearsed for the band because I never had a rehearsal because I just walked because I knew everything as well as they did because I was watching that
Hmm.
show pretty much every day of my life. So it was like, and we were very close friends and still are. And it was hard. It was very hard because, of course, she was the voice of the thing of the band of the sound of everything. But I guess people get used to anything. So we did something quite different for the not the first album that I did. I did País Tropical with Karen Phillip,
Hmm.
and which was a great, already a little bit different than the rest because then, yeah, because I was there. Then a lot of the
Hmm.
things were like the Brazilian songs and everything was a little different, anyway. And then we did the Primal Roots, which was a totally different album for Sergio
Yeah, let me talk about
at the
because
time.
obviously you coming into the band, transitioning Lonnie out of the band.
Yeah,
Karen Phillip had been there.
yeah.
It must not have been easy because it would seem to me that any other vocalist would want to get more vocals. So you were probably the Lonnie replacement, but you didn't take over all the lead vocals. So it was kind of a transition there
Well, there
in
was
País
because
Tropical.
the Lonnie was the only person that recorded all the albums except for Look of Love that was done by Janice
Mhm.
in the first albums. And then Sergio started slowly. I think it's on Stillness that Karen sings one of the songs of the
Mhm.
album, and then he started changing a little bit that dynamic of just one voice becoming the voice,
Mhm.
which was good because from then on, uh, people changed quite a lot. So it was not established that one voice would be the voice. So we had the two singers sound became more the two different singer sounds became more prevalent. And Carrie and I sang a lot of things together. We sang our songs that she had a couple of songs that she sang by herself. I had a couple of songs that I sang by myself, but we sang a lot of the stuff together. And she left a year later,
Mhm.
and first I had a very nice singer that also didn't stay long, and then by 73, Bonnie Bowden joined the band. and we were together singing for 2 years, and we had a great sound together, actually.
Hmm.
It was like a very, 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 very tight unison, because most of the stuff that we did was we did harmonies too, but mostly it was a unison sound that it was very hard to get that tight, but we both did a good. And then from then on, I sang with so many different singers. So the good thing was that but Sergio always had a thing about, except for the fact that Lonnie, the Sound of Brazil 66 in record became Lonnie. Live, it was the two singers, and they were very well rehearsed, and they sang very well together. It was very tight,
Yes.
which was something that, and Sergio was always very worried about showcasing everybody during the shows. He always did. He was very generous and he wanted everybody to shine. He didn't care. Sergio was never the musician that wanted to shine. He wanted
Yeah.
everybody else to shine. So
Yeah. He
much
was,
so,
I would say he's
yeah.
not a grandstander. And
No, he was not. And he loved to have the band doing like, since I met him, he was always like that. And they all had the moments in the show, the solos and the things and then he added a guitar, which in the original Brazil 66 did not exist. But right
Mhm.
when I started, Oscar was already playing with the band. And so everybody had their moment to shine. So that helped a lot. And I think people got used to the idea of this changing band, that it wasn't anymore like just the six Brazil 66 group. It became a different thing. And Sergio was very curious and very eager to try different things, and he always adored that. So he would sometimes we would a singer had to leave because either she was wanted to get married or had babies or whatever. We had to find another one, and it was always good for the energy, to have new vocals, new voices, new whatever. And he always adored that. He always enjoyed very much getting new blood, like he would say in the band.
Mhm.
And that I was easy because I worked very well with everybody, and it was. And then sometimes I would retire too when I had kids, when
Sure.
I had to. So I would have all these great singers that I rehearsed through the years, and yeah, it was interesting. It became a different concept of the original Brazil 66.
Mm. Well, I did notice that, you mentioned the Primal Roots album, and that's one
Uh-huh.
album I didn't talk about in my series because it was
Yeah.
just after Brazil 66, but several viewers mentioned that album, how good it is. And it showed me that Sergio was not afraid to try something experimental. And he
No,
always seemed to be he was very much like the Beatles in the sense that he was doing new things and trying to lead into new territory.
his whole life.
And that was very evident with the Primal Roots album. And
Yeah.
it didn't do that well. It may have been a little bit
No,
too out
it
there,
was a
but
little lost in the shuffle because I think, first of all, it was the last album he did for A&M. He was like on the way out. And it was, I think at the time, a very hard album for them to understand, for them to be able to sell, like, and what are we gonna do with this album? This album doesn't have the thing, it was so different than everything else that he had done. But it was an incredible, and that was the third album that we did at his studio. He had a studio at home. I wasn't married to him yet at this point, but we did the whole album at his home. He had a studio that had been built by Harrison Ford in 1970, and it was a great studio. And that kind of record that we did, it was very loose and very spontaneous, and it was all done in that studio, which was great. But I think for the time, it was a little bit too avant-garde, whatever, too different from everything, and that they didn't know what to do with it. But it became an incredible cult among great musicians. I mean, there's not one musician in the world that didn't know that album at that time. They
mhm.
were in love with it, everybody, always. And he has always had a little resurgence through the years. People would come out and say, "Oh my God, we just found out this record exists," whatever.
Well,
It
that
was
one is
quite
very good.
interesting.
And then obviously after that, when you got left A&M and you got Bonnie in the group, and that really started that new kind of what I call it was more the 70s disco period, and it
Yeah,
really
it was
fit
a
well.
strange period, but yeah.
It fit really well with the music
No, he
though.
did great, and the songs were great. I mean, his material was always very good because he had a great ear for good songs.
Yes.
It's sort of like for a while he went a little bit out of the Brazilian thing. We did those two albums that were done originally after A&M. He did two albums for Bell Records that were done produced by Bones Howe and mostly arranged vocally, whatever, by Bob Alcivar.
Hmm.
And it was like, it, the first one was a very different album, also from Primal Roots completely, but it was, yeah, it started a different kind of thing. We did Superstition, we did several original songs that, but and then on the second one we did several Brazilian songs and we did Waters of March with Jobim playing. So this was a sort of a bit of a return into the mix of Sergio Mendes and whatever,
Hmm.
and but also still arranged by David Grusin. That was the
Oh,
Dave
okay.
Grusin and Sergio was an amazing marriage. That since the first album they did together, which was Look Around, they had a marriage that was amazing because they thought alike, they heard alike. It was even great to watch the process of them, developing. So Dave would come and Sergio would do the arrangements for the basic stuff, and then he would come and bring the orchestrations, and they were like an incredible marriage. And it was a very, very productive and nice phase of their lives, of musically. And but then, when we went to Electra, he sort of like still was in their mode, like you say, until he went back to his roots.
Hmm.
Until he went back to A&M actually, and then did Never Gonna Let You Go. I mean, which was totally
Out of the blue. I
out of the
remember
blue,
that
and it
song.
was
Yeah.
actually totally out of the blue because when he did Never Gonna Let You Go, he had finished the album that he was doing. And it was the first album he did back to A&M. And the album was done, and a song came through the mailbox. Somebody left a demo in the mailbox in our house. And when we came back from the last day of recording, we sit down and there's this thing, and we put it on the cassette player. It was a cassette. And the song comes out, and there was a little note. I thought you would like to do that in your album, whatever. And Sergio says, I cannot do that in my album is done. And I said, well, I think you're gonna have to start again because there was a song, and the demo had Joe Pizzullo, the singer that ended up singing the song, singing it. It was not a duet, it was just a song, one person, and it was amazing. And then he said, but Bruce, we're Dean starting to mix the album Monday. This is Saturday night. I said, well, he can mix the album, but you can record in the other studio. So, so he did it, and that was history because the song became huge. And it was
Yeah.
totally not Sergio. I mean, it was a beautiful song, but it wasn't like what he he did, what he was recording, even like the album, but it was a spectacular song.
As
And
you said, he still could pick good material. He had
oh
an ear
yeah,
for that, and he all through his career he was able to always do that. And that's
yeah,
proof of that. Two decades later, after he first made his impact.
yeah, absolutely. And then, and then he went back again with Brasileiro years later. I
Mm.
don't know if you were familiar with this record that is called Brasileiro.
I've read about it. I've
Oh, it's
sampled
a
some of the
it's a
stuff.
beautiful album. And then he decided that was when he went, he had left A&M for the second time, and he didn't want to record anymore. And then he met Bob Krasno at a dinner, and Bob Krasno said to him, so when are you doing your next album? He says, I don't think I am. I don't know if I want to record anymore. I mean, I've been doing a lot of things, but it's been a while since I recorded my last album, and I don't feel like doing that anymore. And Bob said, no, 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 that's not a conversation that I want to have. So I wanted to do another album and I wanted to do it for me. He was the head of Elektra at the time. And that's when Brasileiro was born, and it was a great album. It's an incredible album.
Mm.
And so just about, I don't even know, just do whatever you want to do, but I want all in Portuguese. I don't want any American songs. So he did. That was a dream for him. So, somebody was willing to buy that. Oh yeah, that he could do. So he did Brasileiro. Brasileiro is this incredible album.
And then he still was relevant and did work with the Black Eyed Peas, and he was always
Yeah.
seemed to be
Again,
around.
he had stopped.
Oh, yeah, they pulled him
Yeah, he
back
did
in,
the
huh?
Brasileiro, and then he did another album for Polygram, and which was a very nice album called Oceano. And then again, he became sort of frustrated that, whatever, and that he wasn't playing as much as he believed he would, whatever. And then he said, "Oh, that's it." Until he met Will.i.am. And then it was impossible to say no because Will.i.am came to our house. One day he knocked at our door. We never
Really?
met him
Wow.
before.
Wow.
And he wanted Sergio to play a piano solo on How Insensitive in his album Elephant. But he came to meet Sergio and to ask him for that. And he came with lots of Sergio's records and CDs and things, and he knew Sergio's history back and forth. So he decided we talked for hours. He stayed there and telling stories of how he had found out who Sergio was when he was a young guy, a teenager. He had a friend that showed him all the records, and he became very and he was great. And Sergio went to do the participate in the album that he did the solo. And then after that, Sergio said, "Oh, it was great working with you." And then Will said, "Well, we don't have to stop here. We can continue. Let's do an album, whatever." I don't know which one of them said that, but let's do an album was the thing, and they did, and that was great. That was an amazing experience to do that album with him.
Yeah, Sergio really, he must have had so much joy from all these reaching all these generations, and
Oh yeah,
young people are continuing to learn about him and find out
yeah.
about him. So the legacy is rather big, and I don't think people realize how many people he's reached out and touched with
Yeah,
his
I
music.
think so. I don't think people do. It's like amazing, and like all over, even in Brazil, like when he did the Will.i.am thing, we actually did that year. We did a New Year's Eve show on Ipanema Beach. That
Mm,
is like 1 million people, 1.5 million people on the beach,
wow.
just watching you. It was amazing. It was fantastic. And but that record brought all these children, young children, grandchildren of our friends and children of like that they discovered that there was this person, Sergio Mendes, that was Brazilian, and there was it was very interesting the renewal, the constant renewal of that, of the Sergio Mendes mark, and it was like. He was very, very happy, and we had some great moments with that. And children that would come up to him that they would have never heard of him if it hadn't been for all the marriage of him and Will.i.am and everything. It was lovely, and he continued, and I think he was the happiest when he was trying something like that, something new, something that, was totally left field. Nobody thought of Sergio Brazil 66 or Brazil, whatever, 3000, doing rap in the middle, whatever. So it was like he always adored that thing, that vibe. I don't know if have you seen his documentary?
Is that? I don't
There's a
think
documentary very beautiful done by John Scheinfeld
I think I've seen
called
part of it. Is
In
it
the
on
Key of
YouTube?
Joy. Huh?
Is it on YouTube?
I think so. Yeah.
Then I have seen parts of
Yeah.
it. Yes. In fact, I
It's
used some
very
of
well
that.
done. And, you can see his joy when he talks about all these experiences, whatever. You can see his enormous joy, of discovering this and hooking up with this incredibly young people that, brought so much energy to him. It was great.
Yeah, I was watching every interview of him that I could find on YouTube and
Yeah,
reading things, and it was
yeah.
interesting because one of the things that it's apparent to me, the Brazilian music and the music Sergio Mendes did and your band is doing now, it still sounds fresh, and it's got that
It does,
very
doesn't
nice
it?
vibe. It's
Yeah,
very festive, and it's got this energy to it that's
yeah.
irresistible. So that I think is why it has lasted the way it
Yeah, I think
has.
so too. But I think if you, I don't know if you know his first album. I mean, not the first, his first album still sounds pretty fresh. But in
Is it
Brazil,
this green
before
one
moving
here?
here,
Is
huh?
that this one back, this green one
No,
back here?
that before that, he did an album in Brazil called Você Ainda Não Viu Nada,
Oh yes,
which
I
is
don't have that one.
with his sextet Bossa Rio. Bossa
Mhm.
Rio was, they had the horns and everything, and they have a trombone, a trumpet, a saxophone. It was like a great band. And they did this album that is like a cult that keeps coming, also coming, is being re-released. I don't know how many times, and now they just did it again in Brazil, celebrating, after he passed away, to as an homage to him. But this album is great. And then when he decided to come to America, he came to America, and that group that he had there was not, it was not possible to bring everybody, so he came in as a trio, and he brought a couple of singers and things that they were sort of independent from him, but they would
Mhm.
play together. And then um, when he decided, because he always had instrumental bands. I mean, since he was 17, his first band, he was 17, he was instrumental. He never really had singers in it, whatever. When he met Lonnie, he was just finishing a stint with this band that had a singer here, a singer there, but they were not his singers. It was not. They were separate singers that would sing with him, but not. But he started liking the idea because he always liked the idea of having different sounds, like when he had the horns and when he had this. And then he thought, he really liked the idea of what he played with the vocal sound with it, but not used so much as like used almost like instruments, to
Mhm.
begin with, and then it developed into something else. But the idea original, and when he saw Lonnie singing in Chicago, the idea became more of like oh yeah, that's what I want. I sound like that, because she had a beautiful sound. She says, yeah, sound like that. But I want two, because two is going to be what I'm having here in my mind when he did Lonnie mostly double, a lot of double things in the records to have that sound. And then but live it was the two singers singing live, so he had the two sounds, and he liked the idea of the two sounds becoming one, whatever, that was the dream from the beginning. He he started rehearsing when he hired Lonnie, and then he had this girl. There was a friend of, I think his wife's or somebody in LA that that sang a little bit. So he hired her and the two of them, and they were good, very good
Was
together.
that BB Vogel?
Bibi Vogel, yeah, she
Hmm.
was a lovely girl, and they got along great, and it was very nice. But she didn't last long because she was also married, and I don't know if she had a baby or something happened that she left. I think she was a model also, and she was
Hmm.
called for a job or whatever, so he got jealous. But he really became very enthusiastic about the idea of having the two human sounds creating another sound, whatever. And that was he adored that. But yeah, he was a very, very curious and very open-minded, and he loved to learn from younger people and younger, points of view and things. He was that was his thing. That's why he probably stayed relevant for so long, and kept doing things that interested people through the years. And yeah, so we're gonna try to keep it up.
Let
We'll
me
see
ask
what
you a
comes.
question, if I may, regarding when you were touring with them in the 60s with Bossa Rio.
Uh-huh.
You were seeing them from the stage, and the little that I've seen of them play live, I mean, very tight. I mean, Sergio
So
must have
tight.
he must have been a stickler for rehearsal. He
Oh
had to
yeah.
rehearse them.
But the first time I saw the band in Brazil, I met them. They came to see the show that I was doing. The next day, they were doing a show, so I went, and we went. My brother and I, and several of the big composers of Brazil and musicians that were his friends. We were all sitting together, and that was the most incredible part of it. It was like the tightness of that band. This I'm talking about '68, and it
Mhm.
was like it wasn't even like the greatest sound. I mean, this is Brazil in '68. It's not even America. So it's not like you don't have state of the art anything. You have your basic everything. And he had an orchestra playing with him also. But that's what the comment of everybody was that. It was like, oh my God, this is so tight, you know. But yeah, that he was a stickler for that. And he was not a perfectionist. He was an artist, and he wanted things to sound as good as as good as he dreamt them, and that was it. And he had always, in that case, he always had great bands. Although this one is his best, but they were always incredible musicians that really worked hard on that. It was always very tight.
I was impressed with how, because I've got the Expo 70 album that was not released in
Hmm.
America. So
No,
I had to buy that at a great expense out of the
yeah,
country, but I was impressed with the sound because it's essentially a trio. Well,
yeah,
Rubens, Bassini on conga, but you've
that's
got
right.
this small jazz setup making an incredible wide sound.
Yeah,
And that can only be done by very good players. So he also chose
that's
very
right.
good players. So as I
Absolutely.
look, listen through the years of the albums, I'm like, I was really tuning into the players, and he really knew what he was doing.
Yeah, yeah, no, he did, and it is incredible how well those. Actually, I was listening. Somebody said to me, "Listen to this." I was listening to Bossa Rio live album in Japan, and also not only the band sounds very well. In Japan, we had the João Donato playing piano. He wasn't in the band, but with the guy that was in the band at the time, he couldn't go to Japan because he had a marijuana thing, whatever, in his life, and they would not let him in. And so we hired João Donato. They lived here. You know who João Donato is? João
I know
Donato.
the
If you
name.
don't know, you should look for it because
Okay.
he's one of the most prolific and old Brazilian musicians. He just passed away the same year as Sergio, or the year I think the year before. It's at 89, and he is an amazing musician. He was an incredible piano player. He was very close. Sergio and him were very close. Sergio always recorded some. The Frog is his song.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I got it.
And then several other songs that we recorded through the years, as João Donato. And João Donato lived here for a long time. And so he went to Japan with us. So the sound of those records are also, I think it's amazing. Those records were recorded live in 19. We never did anything else. We never did one pass of like sometimes we do a live album, but this day you fix it here, you fix it there. We never did. Those were recorded in the day of that show, and never again we were near it, But they sound amazing for a live recording in those days.
Yeah, it's
And
very hard to find good recordings live in the 60s. And I think one of the
yeah,
reasons why uh, Brazil 66 sounds good is because it was a quieter sound. It was
yeah,
basically a jazz.
probably,
Because a lot of these loud groups that came, it was all about the loudness, and it was hard to record that.
yeah,
And so I think
very
that's
hard.
why the Sergio Mendes Expo sounded so
Yeah,
good.
it's very good. And then we did another one that we recorded live, but I think it was for a Japanese company also, that we recorded live in 1972.
Hmm.
I think 72. We recorded live at the Greek Theater. It
Ah,
never came out here, but came out in Japan.
okay.
And we were playing with the orchestra with the Harry Mancini. We were opening the show for Harry Mancini at the Greek. We
Ah,
did 2 weeks with Harry Mancini at the Greek, and we had this live record done. I don't remember who recorded it, but it's very good. And yeah, and it sounds pretty good, but it was only I found it on I keep buying this old vinyl records on rare vinyl and all those
Oh,
places that
you're
have
buying
some.
that too. I'm not the only one, huh?
Yeah, I buy everything that I see that it belongs to the family. I got the idea. I have a nephew. My family is all very musical. I have a sister that is a very incredible singer, and now she's also a composer. My brother is a very talented composer and bass player who has played with everybody from Gal Costa to Edu Lobo to everybody in Brazil through the years, and he's a brilliant musician and he has a lot of songs. So I have a nephew that is a historian that started in Brazil collecting the whole family, the register of everything that the family has ever appeared on. And he has actually found some interesting things. He found a song that I recorded in 1967 that I didn't even know I had
Oh,
recorded.
wow.
So it's good, it's good. But that idea gave me the idea of getting all of Sergio's and Bossa Rio's and mine and whatever, everything that I participated on together in vinyl because you can still find those things, and I've been finding incredible things that I can say that I have because a lot of those records disappeared through the years.
I'm sure. Yeah,
Now I
I'm
have,
the same way. I love the physical media behind me. I've got tons of records
yeah,
and
it's great. Yeah,
it's a
my
lot of
my
fun.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's great.
What would you say is here in America, we don't know much about Brazil and what goes on in Brazil. And what is the feeling of Brazilians toward Sergio Mendes and his music? Because I get the feeling that he was so popular in America.
Yeah.
What was
No, the
the feeling
feeling
of the
of the
Brazilians?
people in Brazil, they adore him. He was always very celebrated, and um, anytime he went to work in Brazil, it was always a huge success. In the 60s, when he left Brazil, he left during the dictatorship, and there were a lot of things going on in Brazil that were not incredible or fantastic by any means. But the press had a little thing with him. I think they were jealous because usually the press gets very jealous of people that go away and make a big success someplace else. I think they sort of feel like, oh, we missed something here. We blew it. This guy was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be ours. Now he belongs someplace else. Actually, in Sergio's case, he belonged to the world, but he did go back to Brazil, not very often, but often enough through the years. And with the public, he was always a big success. With the shows and everything was always sold out. The people were very happy. He always had all this. Brazilians travel a lot, so everywhere that we go play anywhere in the world, there's always a bunch of Brazilians. They're there and very happy. But the fans, the people were always very, very much great for him. The press for a while was sort of like a little negative, but not only with him, with anybody that had a little more success than they thought should go back to Brazil or not have left, and then there was a little bit of jealousy. There was a little bit of the 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 the, the political movement of Brazil. There was at the time
Mm-hmm.
in the early 60s until the early 70s, very much geared into the left on the journalist side, whatever, and they had he was in America. America was the enemy, whatever. There was always this little things, but no, he had from the public, he always had the utmost respect, and uh, his fans are huge. The problem with Brazil now, I think, is that the generation gap. So there's not as many the younger people don't know him as much as they know him in other places, like in
Mm-hmm.
Japan or in uh,
Okay.
in America or even in Europe. Younger
Mm-hmm.
people know him better than in Brazil. unless you are the son of friends of his, whatever. But the children of our friends know us. But I mean, I think that's the thing because on the last 30 years, he probably went to Brazil twice. And he played the Rock in Rio. We played in Rock in Rio 50, it's already 10 years ago, so it's like
Hmm.
the younger generation has no idea much of who he is.
Hmm.
But the older generation really, still, when he passed away, there were so many, uh, we received so many, everything from Brazil was in total mourning, when he passed away because they did respect. It's not always trust. They could have done all the tributes that they did to him when he passed away. If they had done it before he died, he would be a little happier. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it was quite moving and yeah, they do recognize him pretty well.
Yeah, I thought I got the feeling there was maybe some jealousy because some countries like to keep their talent with
Yeah,
them, and it's like they belong to me. So when Sergio was had so much popularity and success outside of Brazil, and
yeah,
particularly in America,
yeah,
I got the feeling that some of the rock journalists or the music journalists thought this was some kind of a sellout. And
yeah.
but if you look
They
at
they
the
will all say something like the other
yeah,
day, a journalist, you know what he said? I don't even know his name, but he said something to the effect that Sergio created my Bossa Rio, my band,
mhm.
which is very similar to the idea of Brazil 66. I mean, instead of being two girls, it was a guy and a girl singing very similar material. Yes, but it was a different band. It was like, but at the same time, Sergio uh, created it. So it's like, yeah, big surprise that he has his finger on it. Of course he does. But the guy said something to the effect like, "Oh, he created this band." Be- People think of the most incredible thing because he was getting so many what do you call offers to do shows, but he couldn't keep up with it, so he created this band to do that.
Oh
It has nothing to do
no,
with the
because you played
idea.
with him at the same
No, the
show.
idea was that he liked that sound of the girl, my sound with the guy, singing, who was an incredible singer, Peri Ribeiro. He was a very famous Brazilian singer at the time. But the guy said that Sergio did that so we could do the gigs that he couldn't. No, we did gigs with him. I mean, that's not knowing anything about the history, but you know, it's people will say anything. But yeah, but he was yeah, the journalists had a little bit of a thing with him, but
Okay.
not the people. The people were always very, very nice
Okay.
to him and they loved him.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I was always curious. One of the Edu Lobo's become one of my favorite songwriters from Brazil,
He's
and
brilliant.
I
I
thought it was.
started my career with him.
Oh, did you really?
Oh
Man,
yeah, I
what a
started actually. I met
really.
Edu Lobo when I first started singing with this group that I had, whatever. And I met him in my uncle had a big TV show, and it was Father's Day, and he was with his father, who was a brilliant musician too, and radio guy. And my father was also a radio guy, whatever, and they knew his father forever. And he was already Edu Lobo. This is 1968. He already had all these big hits, and I was a huge fan of his and I was starting, and he had heard of our little group there, whatever, and he met me, and he had seen our show on TV, and I met him in the backstage of my uncle's show, TV show, and he invited me. No, yeah, he invited me to sing a song in his record. So that's how I met him, and I went to sing a song in the record he was making at that time. And it was the first recording that I had out in my life. It was with the Lobo. And then I did two songs. One song turned to two. And then we started working together. We traveled all over Brazil. We put on a little show that was us. Just he sang his stuff, I sang mine, and then we sang a lot of things together. And we worked together for a long time until I met Sergio.
Wow. Well, I was impressed with his songwriting and some of
Oh,
his
he was
his
incredible.
performances. And
Yeah.
he and some of those musicians he played with eventually played with Sergio. in
Yeah.
in
Oh,
Brazil
yeah, many,
66.
many
So
of them.
I see this the live version. I see
Yeah.
that's Rubens Bassini and
Yeah,
these
Ruben
guys and
Bassini was very, Ruben Bassini was my neighbor when I was 7 years old.
the big guy, huh?
But yeah, he was the big guy. He was the older guy, and he played it when I first met him and I was a kid. He played with this big orchestra in Brazil, and then he became very. He started playing with everybody, but in the 60s when he was one of the musicians of the big television station. They had a lot of musical shows, and they had an in-house orchestra that he played with. He played with a lot of people, and then Sergio called him to come to America because when the Brazil 66, the first one, they had a mutiny. They
Yes.
they
Hmm.
left him. They didn't. They went to Herb and said, we don't need Sergio. And then Sergio said, Herb said, I'm sorry, but I signed a guy named Sergio Mendes. And Brazil 66 can be whoever, but Sergio Mendes, I cannot, replace. And they left. And they wanted whatever. They wanted more
Yeah.
money. They
See,
wanted
I
whatever
didn't.
it
They
was.
actually
But,
went. I didn't know
he,
that they actually went to
yeah.
Herb Alpert
Oh,
behind
yeah,
Sergio's
they did.
back.
And Herb said,
Oh.
sorry, and then Herb said to Lonnie, stay here, honey. Don't go. And Lonnie never was part of that because the guys thought that they could replace Sergio. So Janice left with them. But Lonnie didn't. Lonnie stayed with Sergio, and they just got this band from Brazil that was Sebastião Chel Neto, who had played with Sergio before, and Dom Romão, which was the biggest drummer of Brazil of my days,
Yes.
and they had also played with Sergio before. And the Rubens, he called the three of them and brought them, and the guy, and he got later he got another uh, great percussionist that became also that played with Rubens for a while. But in the beginning, he called it the three of them. He continued like if nothing had happened. It was
Yeah,
like,
he didn't miss a beat.
and the
In
Brazil
fact,
66 went on, and then Karen came the audition and came in. But it was a mutiny that they did, and but nothing really happened to them. And they did actually they did made a band or
they
some
did.
kind.
Yeah, and it didn't
And
sound.
but
It
nothing
was it
happened.
was
And then he had
actually.
another mutiny later.
Oh, did he? Another mutiny.
Yeah, in 1976.
Oh,
And that was when, his musicians were also very close friends at the time, but they did the same thing. They decided not to replace him in his band. It was not as dreamlike like that. They just left and decided that they could have a band as good as his without him, which they probably could, but there are ways of doing that, and that was not the nice way to do it.
hmm.
A lot of people left his band through the years, but
Yeah.
these were like everybody, oh, let's get together and create our own band and leave Sergio on the lurch because he had a tour starting in 2 weeks when they all left,
Oh, really?
including they were like the musicians were like at the time were like had been with him for 3 4 years, people that he trusted and whatever, but it's part of the thing of being the band leader, I
Yeah.
guess. But we survived, he survived, no doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
And some
Yeah,
of
it's
those musicians probably did too, but very few. They
yeah,
died.
it was interesting. It seemed to me that in 68 when there was this mutiny that he took the opportunity to make the band better and he brought in it
Oh,
seemed
it
like
was
better
better.
players.
It,
So,
it, it turned out that it was like, in terms of lots of things. And also, uh, these people that came into the band in 67 to 68, in 68, I guess,
mm,
they not only stayed with him but even the ones that left, we were friends forever, like we never we're not friends anymore. Actually, the guy that was the drummer that started the mutiny on the first Brazil 66, about a year later he had uh, tuberculosis or something like that. And Sergio paid for all his hospital
oh,
bills
really?
and went to visit him. He was the only person, he was here. He was the
Mm,
only person.
Mm,
And this guy, unfortunately, he went back to, he was a very good drummer and everybody liked him a lot, but he was not very smart.
mm,
And
mm.
he stayed in Brazil, and but Sergio never really held the grudge after a while because he came out good. I mean, these guys were like very. Also, Sergio had some incredible stories, like the. I heard you talking about this guy Richard Adler.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but Richard Adler was not that nice with him because
Mm.
he hired him for life. He wanted to be his manager for life. He wanted to be Colonel Park or whatever, something
Oh
like that.
yeah. Hmm.
Half of everything that he made for life. He was
Uh,
19 years old, 20 years old in Brazil. He signed it. He didn't know
oh,
even what he was signing.
that's very common in the music
Yeah.
industry.
He
Artists
was a
get
young boy.
taken
He
all
didn't
the
come here
time.
until 20, he was 23, but when he signed with Richard, he was about 21 or 22. And
Oh, did not know that.
yeah. And he came and things didn't go as as great because Richard didn't really get him anything. Even the audition to A&M for A&M, it wasn't he didn't come from him. It came from somebody else.
Oh, see that that's it's told that Richard Adler helped
No,
set that up
no,
with
no.
A&M.
No, he didn't really. Unfortunately, he didn't do anything.
Mm,
And
mm,
Sergio, was able to, through Herb and Jerry, whatever, they were able to get him out of that one. But it was one of those things that the lore has become that he was, you know, a mentor. He was not. He was like actually probably he had a dream that didn't happen. But he couldn't do anything about it, Richard. And he went back to England, and years later he called Sergio to ask him to forgive him, whatever. But because he didn't do what he was supposed to do for him.
mm.
But Sergio was pretty resilient, and when he decided to come to America, he decided that he was gonna stay. So he did everything that he could to stay, and he was able to do it. A lot of people that want to come to America don't have the staying power because they don't want to start again a career.
I see.
They don't want to
Hmm.
go from zero, and that's what you have to do. You come to a different country like as America, bigger with so many people, so much more competition. You have to be willing to start again. But most people don't want to do that.
Well, with Sergio, he that came naturally to him. He didn't seem to mind at all. He was always
No,
looking to do something new, so it almost played
yeah,
into
he was
his.
always starting again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very, when he decided it was good. It was he would go for it. But that's what I think kept him here all these years. He never went back to Brazil. And he always was able to reinvent himself and the band and whatever. So that's what I'm trying to do, to reinvent this band. But now it's a harder thing because it's without him.
Yeah.
But I'm confident that people are going to enjoy. The music is there, the arrangements are there, the repertoire is there. And I think the spirit of it that people loved, which was like he created, and we cannot get away from it even if we tried.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people are going to feel good and familiar about that, which is what I think is going to happen. I hope is going to happen.
Well, I think people are still drawn to his music and just older music in general because newer music is not providing the soul of a lot
Yeah.
of this old music. So I think it's always going to be a draw. So there's
Yeah,
still
and
a
there's
lot
never
of.
been there's never been a generation as old as ours, so many people of our generation alive at a certain point in life. It's proven that we are the oldest, we are the biggest old generation that exists
Mhm.
because and we were left without anything to see or to watch or to hear. We had to rely on the old stuff because the new stuff is very different for us. It's very alien.
Mm.
It's not the same. We were used to a different kind of everything, of quality, of whatever. And it's, I think people in my generation and Sergio's and the next one below me, we we missed kind of those things. That's why I listen to Sinatra every day and Nat King Cole and Ella Fitzgerald and Carmen McRae, The Love of My Life. And, we that's what I do, and you too. I can see there your little collection, some of it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I'm so happy to hear that you're still carrying on the legacy and you're
Thank
starting.
you.
And
Thank
then
you.
the new tour starts May 15th, which is about
May 15th.
when this
Yeah.
video
And
is
then we're
probably
going
going
to
to be
Oakland
out.
and then we go to Solana Beach to this joint that I love called the Belly Up. Is a great club.
Oh, really?
Lots of fun. And then we're going to play a festival in Omaha, Nebraska, which I haven't been to in a long time, but we used to go
Okay.
there a long time ago. But I love the idea. I have a wonderful friend that lives there, that she was a great singer in the band, Carol Rogers. And yeah, and then we go to the East Coast.
Well, maybe I'll catch you on one of those. I'm in Milwaukee, and I'm not on our town isn't on the
Oh,
list quite yet. I know.
not yet, not quite yet.
I
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Milwaukee, yes. But I'm pretty sure we used to do a lot of stuff in Minneapolis, and but we don't have anything there yet. But I'm hoping that we will have a little bit all over.
I've had people tell me that, yeah, I was at State Fair in 1967 and Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 played. And I can hear from people that when you guys would
Really,
come here,
that's
oh
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
you still
yeah.
talk about it. So
Oh yeah, man.
good
That's
shows. And
great.
if I can get out to one of your shows, I certainly will.
That's lovely. I would please let me know so we can meet in
Yes, for
person.
sure. And
It
I'd love
was
to.
lovely talking to you. I talk a lot, but it was a lot of fun
Well,
talking to
better you
you.
than me.
And
That's what my audience wants. So
no, but it was really nice, and I thank you for your beautiful work, and I lot of which has been. I didn't know it was so recent. I thought you had done that a little while back, but it's about somebody told me you just
yeah,
released
last
that,
month, a month or
and
two
I've
ago,
been
yeah.
hearing from several people that have been watching it and everything. So thank you so much for keeping the magic alive.
Oh, my pleasure. That's what I'm trying to do with this channel. And
That's lovely.
I
That's a
was,
wonderful idea because there's so many beautiful things out there that people have no knowledge or recollection. You have
yeah,
to.
I'm trying to put this on the record for future generations. If they want to delve
Oh,
into it,
that's
it'll be here.
wonderful. It is wonderful because yeah, it's a great service for the new generation because we have to train them. We have to train their ears.
That's what I
I have
think
I
too.
have 7 grandchildren and
Oh,
and I have my children are like naturals. They only hear they have a very eclectic taste, but they know very much about Brazilian music, American music, jazz, and rock and everything. But that's what we gotta give to all the kids, so they can develop a great ear for music.
An artistic ear for music. Yes, for sure.
Yes, yes, yes. It's very important. It's very important.
I was really hoping to talk with somebody from the group, and I am glad that this came about because you filled in some holes in the history, and people really love to hear it from somebody who's actually there and in the
Yeah,
band. So that's
yeah.
such a this is such a great addition to the work I did. So I appreciate that.
I think it's very important. What you're doing is very important, that it is keeping, this alive, the history of music that, is going to disappear from the face of the earth because if somebody doesn't keep it up, it's going to disappear. And there is so much interest, I think, nowadays in old things because there's not that much great new things for older people. And I think it's a wonderful service. It's a work, it's a job that we have to keep it up. And you're so young. It's lovely that you're doing
Well,
that.
I'm older than you think, probably. I'm 57.
No, you're not.
Yes.
You just say that so everybody
No,
says
no.
that's
I've been
impossible.
collecting since I was 13, but I've since I was a child. I was born in 68. So that's
Oh
right
my
about when you
God.
started with Sergio. And I've
You were
been,
born when I came here.
yeah, so I've always loved playing music. So and I, in the 70s, most of the records I had was all 60s stuff. So that burned a very deep groove in my mind. So everything from that decade, I'm really diving deep into and trying to preserve it. And by
Oh,
doing these
that's
kind of
great.
documentaries and kind of a good band history, and I always like to play music clips in there because so people can hear it. It's hard to talk about music without playing it. And it's
Yeah.
very difficult to do that on YouTube because of copyright. So I've got to fight that a
Oh,
little bit, but I'm still going to keep doing it and, see how it
yeah.
goes.
It's lovely talking to you, and I hope that we get to meet in one
I
of
hope so
a
too.
live concert one of these
I hope
days.
so too. I'll try to make it happen.
Absolutely.
Well,
Keep
thank
up the
you.
good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you for joining me.
A
And
pleasure.
we will be back here on Pop Goes the 60s with another interview with somebody very special, I hope sometime soon. So thank you for watching.